This really shouldn't be happening right now. We pointed our best telescopes at the star system closest to us. We expected to see a typical dead rock or a familiar gas ball there. But the data we received completely overturns all our previous scientific knowledge. Reality turned out to be frighteningly far from our wildest theories. Astronomers have long established clear and understandable models of planetary formation. According to these rules, the cosmos operates predictably and with mathematical precision. The Alpha Centauri system, the closest to us, has always been considered a calm and boring place. We were confident that we thoroughly understood the physics of our cosmic neighbors. No one expected to find something completely inexplicable and terrifying there. The equipment was supposed to simply confirm our long-standing theoretical calculations. Instead, the instruments began recording data that shatters the foundations of astrophysics. Our familiar and comforting picture of the world has suffered a massive, irreparable crack. What we discovered there simply cannot exist in nature. And this forces us to reevaluate all our knowledge with dread. The universe has always seemed logical to us and subject to strict laws. By all the rules, neighboring stars should be nothing more than silent balls of gas. Their planets should be predictable worlds with a well-understood chemical composition. We expected to see a standard and boring picture of the evolution of star systems. But now, this familiar order of things has been shattered forever by a single observation. If our calculations are so grossly wrong in the immediate cosmos, it is a catastrophe. It means that we do not understand the basic principles of the universe at all. For decades, we have gazed at the sky while remaining in a state of absolute and dangerous ignorance. Now, this illusion of safety has finally dissipated in the face of new facts. The star closest to us hides a secret that completely changes everything. The Alpha Centauri system is literally on the doorstep of our cosmic home. It is a triple star system located closer to our Sun than any other. Engineers have always considered it the most obvious and easiest target for study. We sent our most powerful instruments there to create a detailed map. Researchers were certain they would find nothing but ordinary cosmic dust. For a long time, our telescopes showed exactly what we wanted to see. Astronomers clearly distinguished two large stars, very similar to our own Sun. The third star turned out to be a dim red dwarf, which was named Proxima Centauri. All these objects behaved as predictably as possible and in accordance with the strict laws of physics. At the time, scientists did not notice any oddities or deviations from the norm. According to everything we know, this region should be stable. The star's orbits have been calculated with incredible precision for millions of years into the future. We know their mass, temperature, and even the chemical composition of their surfaces with certainty. This is a classic, straightforward, and utterly uninteresting star system straight out of a textbook. Nothing foreshadowed the terrifying discoveries that lay ahead. In theory, planets around such stars should form according to standard rules. If there are rocky worlds there, they must obey our Earth-based logic. Logic suggests that these are simply lifeless chunks of rock in a cold vacuum. Their atmospheres should consist of a predictable set of basic chemical elements. The cosmic ether in this region must be crystal clear and empty. We prepared meticulously for the search for exoplanets in this quiet zone. Special algorithms filtered the light from these stars closest to us for years. Scientists looked for the slightest changes in brightness that revealed the presence of planets. This is an incredibly complex process, requiring enormous computing power and time. Our search system worked flawlessly, producing completely stable and expected results. Soon, we actually found what we had been searching for so long and so persistently. The planet Alpha Centauri BB became the first sensation in our immediate vicinity. Then astronomers confirmed the existence of a rocky world orbiting the red dwarf Proxima b. This discovery fit perfectly into our well-established scientific theories. Scientists joyfully celebrated yet another triumph of human intellect and technology. It was an entirely normal and understandable model of our physical reality. We assumed that gravity and thermodynamics work the same way throughout the entire universe. Therefore, the discovered worlds must simply be scorching rocks or icy deserts. We knew exactly what characteristics these new planets were bound to possess. Researchers had already begun writing new chapters in academic astronomy textbooks. The scientific community was in a state of euphoria over its incredible successes. Many institutes redirected their telescopes to study our neighbors in greater detail. The reliability of our measurement methods left no room for doubt among experts. The equipment ran like a Swiss watch, without the slightest glitch. All that remained was to collect routine data and wrap up this scientific project. For years, we continued to point our instruments at this promising star system. Researchers systematically studied the orbits of the discovered planets and their influence on the stars. We chose the best moments when the planets passed across the disks of their stars. Such transits allow us to determine the size and density of a celestial body with great precision. All parameters clearly pointed to the mundane and unremarkable nature of these worlds. We were looking for answers to simple questions about mass and surface temperature. This data was considered the most important prerequisite for completing our research. All the indicators matched our mathematical models perfectly. It was a brilliantly conceived and logical scientific strategy without a single flaw. But it was precisely at that moment that the predictable reality began to crumble with a crash. But suddenly, we saw something that completely shattered all our theories. The data from the telescopes ceased to obey the laws of physics as we know them. Anomalies were detected on the planet Proxima b that simply couldn't be there. At first, it seemed like a ridiculous error in processing the massive array of data. However, repeated observations only confirmed the terrifying and unbelievable reality of what was happening. Instruments are detecting strange activity in a zone that should be completely lifeless. The most sensitive spectrometers are detecting chemical compounds of unknown origin. This data doesn't just contradict our logical mathematical model. It completely overturns all our experience studying rocky exoplanets. Something is definitely unfolding according to a completely unpredictable and dangerous scenario. Instead of the expected boring rock, we see a complex and dynamic system. This slight change in the spectrum does not resemble natural processes. It is as if someone or something is actively altering the composition of the atmosphere right now. We can find no geological explanations for such sharp chemical spikes. Our neat picture of the world is crumbling right before our astonished eyes. We are looking at the nearest planet, where the laws of chemistry should be ordinary. Astronomers have double-checked the calibration of all orbital and ground-based observatories dozens of times, but the resulting graphs stubbornly show the presence of complex molecules in Proxima's atmosphere. Such an incredible combination of gases simply defies the comprehension of a normal scientist. It directly contradicts all known laws of thermodynamics and planetary science. The more detailed our images become, the more alarming the picture looks. Previously, we could easily attribute minor anomalies to the turbulence of Earth's atmosphere. Scientists hoped that space telescopes would quickly clarify this confusing situation. We pointed the powerful mirrors of our orbital stations directly at this neighboring system. But the incredible clarity of the new data sent researchers into a state of shock. Now, the old argument about Earth's limited technology no longer holds water. We see spectral lines more clearly than ever before in human history. Modern sensors are capable of detecting every molecule in the atmosphere of a distant world. And this fantastic level of detail only underscores the absolute abnormality of the planet Proxima b. The results obtained completely defy the basic rules of star system formation. At first, we genuinely thought it was just an annoying software glitch. Engineers spent weeks rewriting the algorithms for processing data from the satellite. They searched for system errors, sensor defects, and thermal noise in the equipment. None of the researchers wanted to believe the frightening truth revealed by these graphs. But the math proved stubborn, and all the rechecks confirmed the initial result. The specialists tested the equipment on other, more distant stars hundreds of times. They pointed telescopes at already studied planets for calibration and verification. It turned out that all the highly complex optics worked flawlessly and perfectly. The instruments scanned the test worlds without the slightest distortion or strange spectra. The problem clearly did not lie with our modern, ultra-precise machines. And that's when we began to notice something truly frightening and massive. This atmospheric anomaly bears no resemblance to ordinary chaotic volcanic activity. It appears unnaturally balanced and too artificially sustained over time, as if some gigantic mechanism were carefully regulating the climate on this planet. The natural evolution of a planet is simply incapable of such surgically precise processes. Dead space always generates random emissions of various gases into the vacuum. Planets cool, heat up, and lose their atmospheres under the influence of powerful stellar winds. We should be seeing this primordial chaos in its completely natural state. But instead, we see a perfectly stable and finely tuned system before us. The collected data looks as if someone is controlling this planet from within. And this is where the situation becomes significantly more baffling to our understanding. This isn't just a strange chemical composition on a single small neighboring planet. We have begun to detect radio signals emanating directly from this very star system. They appear against the backdrop of cosmic noise with a frightening and inexplicable regularity. Scientists are analyzing these pulses and realizing with horror the scale of the new problem. At first, researchers thought these were ordinary, powerful flares on a red dwarf. The star Proxima Centauri is known for its extremely unstable and volatile nature. Astronomers pointed radio telescopes at it, expecting to see standard plasma eruptions. But the radio waves they received were completely unlike natural stellar storms. There is a clear mathematical sequence in these strange bursts of energy. This mysterious pulsation stands out against the backdrop of the usual chaotic radiation of space. It cuts confidently through trillions of kilometers of emptiness, heading straight for our antennas. Scientists have tried to decipher this rhythm, hoping to find a logical, natural explanation for it. Instead, they discovered a rigid structure that contradicts all natural phenomena. The signal's source operates with incredible precision, unattainable by any known celestial object. In an attempt to find an answer, engineers changed the scanning frequencies hundreds of times in a row. Researchers moved from narrow radio bands to a broad sweep of the entire spectrum. We looked for other natural sources that could generate similar radio waves. Astronomers tried to detect reflections from asteroids or the influence of magnetic cometary clouds. It seemed to us that we just needed to find the right angle to approach this problem. But this strange rhythmic signal is detectable at absolutely every level of observation. Optical telescopes record strange flickers that perfectly coincide with these radio pulses. Infrared sensors show thermal emissions synchronized with each new electromagnetic wave. No natural phenomenon can generate such complex and coordinated activity simultaneously. All our scientific theories crash against this mathematically perfect and inexplicable wall. With each new day of observation, the scale of this problem only grows rapidly. The planet's brightest minds have finally realized that this is not a random technical glitch in the equipment. It is a frightening systematic pattern emanating from the Alpha Centauri system right now. The longer we listen to this signal, the more clearly we see its strictly artificial nature. This phenomenon effectively shatters our conception of the dead space next to us. The signal does not simply repeat itself monotonously, it gradually changes its internal structure. Scientists around the world are racking their brains over the physical nature of this baffling phenomenon. No modern theory is capable of logically explaining such infinitely complex behavior. In search of a solution, astrophysicists began analyzing dusty archives from past decades. They dug up old records from the very first observations of Proxima Centauri. It turned out that faint signs of this anomalous activity had been present there for a very long time. It's just that back then, no one paid any attention to this strange background noise. In those years, we attributed this signal to ordinary radio interference from Earth satellites. Radio astronomy did not have the powerful filters available today to clean up the information coming from space. But now we realize with horror the magnitude of our mistake in analyzing the data. This is definitely not an earthly technical echo that accidentally got into the equipment. We can't just turn off the antenna and forget about this frightening rhythm forever. No matter where we shift the focus, the mysterious signal from the Centaurus system remains crystal clear. The surrounding ether falls silent, as if making room for this important transmission. This completely contradicts the nature of the turbulent and eternally chaotic universe we know. Just imagine the true scale of what physically creates such a signal. Generating such pulses requires truly incredible, constant, and stable energy. It is colossal power, controlled by a mechanism that is extremely complex and completely unknown to us. We know of no natural stellar processes involving such a high level of organization of matter. This lies completely beyond the reach of modern science and terrifies researchers to the core. The problem becomes even more profound when we look closely at the planet's location. Astronomers are constantly analyzing Proxima B's orbit around its dim and cold host star. We are beginning to see clearly that the planet lies right within the so-called habitable zone. This is the ideal distance where ordinary water on the surface can exist in liquid form. And this indisputable fact makes the anomalous signal we received even more intriguing and eerie. This discovery completely shatters our previous notions of dead worlds. The chemical anomaly we previously observed no longer seems like a simple and absurd coincidence. It is rapidly taking on a frighteningly meaningful and all-encompassing character for researchers worldwide. Scientists have concluded that the conditions there are ideal for sustaining protein-based life. It is a harsh but surprisingly stable place where complex biological organisms could develop. Over the past decades, we have thoroughly scanned this sector for traces of water. Our instruments have detected spectral lines that are difficult to explain by natural causes. Researchers have indeed found indirect evidence of liquid oceans on this strange, rocky planet. Vast masses of water are capable of accumulating and distributing heat across the celestial body's surface. We attempted to peer beneath the dense clouds using powerful infrared spectral analysis. There, the concentration of heat is distributed as if a complex climate system were operating on a planetary scale. Temperature differences between the day and night sides are smoothed out by a mechanism unknown to us. For the sake of experimental purity, we even checked for the gravitational influence of neighboring massive yellow stars. Astrophysicists hoped to find a fatal flaw in this ideal picture of a potentially habitable world. But everywhere, the same effect of remarkable temperature stability is consistently observed. Red dwarfs often emit powerful flares capable of destroying any atmosphere. However, Proxima B's protective field seems to easily deflect these destructive radiation streams. In all of observable space, there is no other planet this close and suitable for life. If this is indeed true, then this discovery completely changes the status of our closest neighbor. This directly implies that the observed, seemingly terrifying phenomenon is occurring in a potentially habitable environment. The scientific community is forced to urgently reevaluate its long-held views on the uniqueness of Earth's conditions. It turns out that we live next to a world that appears frighteningly ideal for life. Outer space itself seems to have deliberately created an exact replica of our earthly cradle there. This hypothesis forces us to seriously reflect on our true place in this vast galaxy. We can no longer consider ourselves the sole owners of a comfortable home. The true scale of this cosmic irony simply defies comprehension by the ordinary human mind. This is most certainly not a random chunk of ice, aimlessly and chaotically drifting through the cold void. Before us lies a complex and incredibly balanced system, functioning like a precision clock. The problem is of a far more fundamental and incredibly profound nature for our earthly science. We have encountered a planet that is too good and too perfect to be just a dead rock. Every new batch of data from telescopes only confirms this frightening theory. It has been receiving heat from its faint red star with astonishing uniformity for millions of years in a row. The eerie stability of its orbit virtually rules out global catastrophes such as collisions with massive asteroids. Orbital resonance keeps the planet in a safe corridor, reliably shielding it from space debris. Nothing prevented hypothetical alien evolution from developing there in complete peace and safety. The formation of complex species could have occurred without the constant extinctions that Earth has endured. Life there had enough time for smooth and continuous development into higher forms. For many years, we romantically believed that comfortable Earth-like planets were an enormous rarity. Scientists sincerely believed in the complexity of creating the right conditions for the emergence and maintenance of life. We considered Earth's unique atmosphere to be humanity's lucky and one-of-a-kind lottery ticket. Projects to search for extraterrestrial civilizations were built precisely on the concept of our complete physical uniqueness. It seemed to us that the search radius for habitable worlds must span thousands of light years. We simply could not conceive of such an incredible proximity. But now, it has suddenly turned out that the ideal cosmic home is right on the next street. An artificial signal is constantly coming from this incredibly comfortable and highly suspicious planet. The signals do not fade in cosmic dust, but seem to pierce interstellar distances toward our locators with purpose. The frequency and modulation of these waves leave no doubt as to their intelligent origin. As a result, this star system finds itself at the very center of our intense and anxious attention. Astronomers around the world are directing their best instruments toward a single point in the sky. Fresh data from orbital telescopes only fully confirm the worst fears of scientific skeptics. The instruments see these conditions as an ideal environment for creating global and dangerous planetary engineering. Moreover, the planet's dense atmosphere itself has a surprisingly distinct geochemical structure. We are observing ideal gas proportions that could not have been maintained without constant replenishment. Physicists see in these layers a precise balance of oxygen and highly complex hydrocarbons. Such compounds on Earth are a direct result of intense industrial or biological activity. This gas mixture is too precise and mathematically stable to be the result of a spontaneous and prolonged geological process. Random volcanic emissions always create toxic chaos, not an ideal, breathable, and clean environment. The planetary crust should have absorbed these gases long ago through natural chemical reactions. It looks exactly as if someone powerful is maintaining the balance through artificial and technological means. Unknown mechanisms or gigantic installations are constantly purifying and enriching the local air. This fact completely rules out the theory of a simple and undeveloped biosphere. We have only just begun to tentatively grasp these startling facts about our closest neighboring system. Just imagine that a habitable, advanced, and living world lies a mere 4 light-years away. Intelligent beings could have been quietly evolving on this incredible and mysterious planet for millions of years. Their civilization could have emerged long before the first bipedal humans appeared on Earth. They could have successfully built their megastructures and studied our faint yellow sun in detail. Their powerful telescopes likely detected oxygen in our own atmosphere long ago. And all this time, they have been silently right under our noses. They watched the birth of our civilization, remaining in a deep and utterly impenetrable shadow. This cosmic silence does not appear to be an absence of life, but rather a deliberate strategy of secrecy. We were too preoccupied with our internal problems to notice such an obvious presence. The realization of this fact is causing genuine panic among global security experts. We were completely unprepared for such sudden contact at such close range. But if our proven models of planetary science don't work there, then they are fundamentally wrong. The basic laws of stellar evolution must be the same across all systems in the observable universe. An error in assessing our closest neighbor represents a critical and embarrassing failure in our science. We will have to completely rewrite all textbooks on astrophysics and the chemistry of planetary atmospheres. This directly affects how we are currently searching for life on other, more distant stars. Our own solar system must obey the very same harsh rules of astrobiology. If we were so gravely and foolishly mistaken about Alpha Centauri, we are utterly blind everywhere else. Such a monumental discovery completely reshapes our understanding of our own technological and scientific competence. It turns out that for decades, our most powerful instruments have been giving us a distorted or incomplete picture of reality. This serious problem is rapidly ceasing to be a purely academic puzzle for a narrow circle of scientists. Physicists can no longer sleep soundly, knowing of the global failure of all their fundamental theories. Institutes around the world are urgently rechecking archives of telemetry data from past years. The scientific paradox has suddenly turned into an existential challenge for all of modern, educated humanity. Scientists are asking the logical question about the nature of this strange artificial atmosphere on Proxima Centauri. If the correct gas composition is being maintained deliberately, then what exactly is hidden beneath these dense clouds? Any conjecture today evokes more primal fear than simple scientific enthusiasm. We are desperately trying to scan the planet with radar, but the signal suspiciously stalls and dissipates instantly. Such behavior of radio waves is uncharacteristic of ordinary weather phenomena or simple dust storms. In light of these facts, the most terrifying question arises. What is the ultimate purpose of such incredible camouflage? Scientists are trying to understand why someone would need to create this gigantic, perfect illusion. Perhaps some powerful creators are trying to hide something monumental right on the surface from us. This artificially maintained atmosphere could serve as a gigantic optical and powerful radioelectronic shield. The energy required to maintain such a dense barrier exceeds all conceivable capabilities of human energy systems. They have literally hidden an entire planet in the place most visible to us. Or, conversely, it is simply the result of the uninterrupted operation of monstrous industrial plants belonging to a civilization unknown to us. Any of these proposed answers forces even the most hardened skeptics in terrestrial astronomy to sit up and take notice. For decades, we have been searching for fragile biosignatures, and instead, we have found a robust, man-made planetary dome. This structure testifies to the incredible technological superiority of our silent and invisible neighbors. The prospect of finding highly advanced life so close by is terrifying in its overwhelming and frightening realism. Our proud status as the crown of creation is rapidly dissolving against the backdrop of their grandiose achievements. This seemed to us like an amusing plot from cheap science fiction, not a harsh and cold scientific fact. We desperately searched for intelligent beings infinitely far away, so we could always feel safe. It was very convenient for us to think of hypothetical aliens as a distant and abstract concept. But now we realize with horror that they might literally be standing at our front door. The Milky Way may be completely empty, but our closest neighbors in the neighborhood are clearly home. And they, it seems, are listening very closely to all our noisy conversations. Our ambitious future as a superior and successful spacefaring species is suddenly called into serious question. Humanity had been making grand plans to soon send unmanned probes to the Alpha Centauri system. We sincerely intended to study those worlds in detail and, perhaps, find simple bacterial life there. Our best engineers spent years developing ultralight spacecraft for long interstellar flights. Science fiction writers created utopian worlds where we easily conquer these nearest wild, rocky planets. We naively dreamed of becoming the primary colonizers in our small and quiet local star sector. Now these plans seem incredibly foolish and deadly dangerous for the future of the entire Earth. People seriously wanted to send miniature laser sails there, equipped with powerful cameras. We assumed we would casually explore empty rocks and photograph cold, alien oceans. But we know absolutely nothing about the harsh rules by which the true masters of this neighboring planet live. In scientific circles, panicked demands to immediately halt interstellar unmanned flight projects are growing louder. The risk of accidentally provoking a large-scale interplanetary conflict is becoming all too real and tangible. Perhaps those currently residing on Proxima b will not tolerate a crude physical invasion by Earth's drones. Our primitive craft could breach their defensive perimeter or disrupt the delicate calibration of their atmospheric shield. Any probe we launch could be perceived as aggressive military reconnaissance by foolish Earthlings. The consequences of such an incredibly reckless move could be catastrophic for our entire human civilization. Powerful and regular laser pulses from Earth could attract unnecessary and extremely close attention. We should behave as quietly as possible until we understand the true nature of what is happening. Any attempt to brazenly peer behind this atmospheric screen could be our final, fatal mistake. We have absolutely no idea whether this neighboring ancient civilization harbors aggressive and expansionist intentions. It could be a peaceful cosmic utopia or an armed, militarized fortress biding its time. Their prolonged silence could signify either complete indifference or cold calculation before striking. We can clearly see the results of their incredibly effective and large-scale planetary-level engineering. They are capable of easily controlling the climate of an entire planet, which speaks to their immense destructive power. Proxima's entire atmosphere reliably guards its secrets, absorbing our best scanning attempts. It is as if they have draped a thick blanket over their celestial home, impervious to our curious instruments. The real and most pressing problem is that they have been watching us for a very long time. Since the invention of radio, we have been continuously broadcasting our television programs directly in their direction. Our home planet glows incredibly brightly and provocatively in the radio spectrum against the backdrop of the void. We are physically unable to hide from our neighbors the undeniable fact of our very noisy and carefree existence. Our radio waves easily reach the Alpha Centauri system in just over 4 Earth years. This directly implies that they regularly receive the latest news about every technological breakthrough we make. If there really is an advanced intelligence hiding there, it knows absolutely every historical detail about Earth. They have already managed to study our languages, our fragmented culture, and, most importantly, our weaknesses. And if this is simply a dormant, automated defense system, it has long since cataloged our planet as a target. Programmed algorithms may interpret our growing radio noise as a signal to eliminate a potential threat. In such a terrifying scenario, we are hostages to an alien ancient code operating completely autonomously. The slightest deviation in our transmissions could suddenly trigger their hidden defense protocols. Humanity can only speculate as to why there has not yet been a direct and brutal response from them. Perhaps we still seem too primitive to them and completely harmless to their grand plans. Or perhaps they are patiently waiting for us to reach a certain level of technological development before making contact. This oppressive uncertainty completely paralyzes any attempts at further active exploration of deep space. Every time we send a powerful radio signal into the void, we now experience genuine and chilling fear. Scientists are desperately urging world governments to impose strict censorship on any transmissions toward Centaurus. Our once bold and open program to search for extraterrestrial intelligence now looks like pure madness. We ourselves voluntarily revealed our exact coordinates without giving a second thought to the possible fatal consequences. The sky no longer seems to us a boundless and safe space for new great geographical discoveries. It has quickly turned into a dark forest where invisible, powerful, and potentially dangerous predators lurk. We face a long and very painful process of reevaluating all our current space programs. Huge budgets are being hastily redirected from research probes to the creation of early warning and defense systems. The planet's leading minds are racking their brains around the clock to devise reliable ways to conceal our radio emissions. We are trying to build our own veil, similar to the one that so effectively conceals Proxima b. But our technology is hopelessly and laughably behind what we observe in our neighbors. We are like frightened children, naively trying to hide under a blanket from a real threat. This stunning discovery forced all nations to instantly forget their internal conflicts and join forces. The threat from space proved too close and real to waste precious time on political squabbles. The best astronomers are working around the clock, analyzing the slightest spectral fluctuations in the neighboring star system. We eagerly capture every photon, trying to decipher the complex code of their perfect atmospheric camouflage. Tension in the world's scientific centers has now reached an unprecedented and extremely dangerous historical peak. No one knows what surprise the new raw data from orbital telescopes will bring us tomorrow. The era of naive cosmic optimism is irrevocably gone for our earthly civilization. We find ourselves on the threshold of a completely new era, full of constant anxiety and monumental challenges. The neighboring system is now perceived not as a target for colonization, but as a menacing and silent sentinel. We will have to relearn how to live with the knowledge that we are constantly being watched from the cold darkness. Our security turned out to be a fragile illusion, based on the foolish belief in our cosmic solitude. The most frightening thing is the realization of our complete intellectual incomprehension of this strange signal from our neighbors. The real problem lies not in the confirmed fact of the existence of extraterrestrial engineering near Earth. The real problem is that this powerful repeating radio signal is completely devoid of familiar human logic. We find ourselves faced with a mysterious message that looks more like a system failure of some unknown technology. Our mathematics categorically refuses to find any meaning in this highly complex and rhythmic sequence of pulses. For decades, astronomers have expected to receive something similar to our own messages into deep space. We hoped to see a sequence of prime numbers or basic equations of physics. Instead, we are detecting a chaotic set of waves of varying lengths and intensities. This stream of information defies classical frequency analysis entirely. It seems the creators of this beacon thought in entirely different categories and concepts. Modern humanity has neither the formulas nor the advanced cryptography to decipher this terrifying message. The best neural networks analyze the signal spectrum around the clock in futile attempts to find even a basic vocabulary. Artificial intelligence sifts through millions of combinations, but produces only scanning errors. Any proposed linguistic hypothesis immediately shatters against the new blocks of continuously arriving data. The scientific world has plunged into the deepest confusion in the face of this incredible and vast cosmic code. We are like ordinary ants trying to read a complex academic book on quantum mechanics. The problem is exacerbated by the enormous speed of data transmission from the neighboring planet. In a single second, we receive a volume of information equal to a massive fraction of the entire Earth's internet. Our servers simply cannot keep up with recording and archiving this colossal stream of alien intelligence. We have to create entirely new data storage facilities just for this single star system. And even then, we preserve only pitiful fragments of the original message. If we don't fully understand the true meaning, we can't objectively assess the level of threat. We don't know how stable the source of this radiation is on the surface of distant Proxima. Perhaps this gigantic beacon has been operating there for thousands of years and is simply transmitting routine stellar navigation data. But just as easily, it could be a desperate distress signal from a civilization slowly fading away. There is a terrifying possibility that we are hearing only the echo of a monstrous catastrophe that destroyed our neighbors. Or, even worse, it could be an automatic timer with a purpose entirely unknown to us. In that case, we are passively and helplessly watching the countdown to an unpredictable global event. We are completely in the dark regarding the true intentions of this neighboring mysterious star system. All we can do is silently collect data and construct increasingly outlandish theoretical computer models. Meanwhile, governments continue to spend billions monitoring this local and terrifying sector of space. Military agencies in various countries are demanding that we immediately cease all our response transmissions. Generals rightly fear provoking an unknown force with a careless radio signal. The scientific community has split into two opposing camps with polarizing views. Some demand that contact be established at any cost for the sake of great technological breakthroughs. Others plead for us to lie low and make Earth as invisible as possible on the radio spectrum. Engineers are creating incredibly complex software filters to detect the slightest changes in this signal. But all this massive effort yields only more incomprehensible and chaotic digital noise for researchers. Perhaps we've simply been using the completely wrong approach to deciphering their mathematics year after year. We are literally trying to translate their most complex language into our very primitive human acoustic concepts. Our science may be too limited by earthly experience to understand a completely alien logic. The paradox is that the signal itself is incredibly powerful and technically crystal clear. Every new batch of data we receive only confirms its absolute artificiality and unprecedentedly strict order. We find complex patterns that repeat with phenomenal precision down to the nanosecond every Earth day. Cosmology in this sector has forever given way to the most complex cryptography and basic information theory. The coveted answers constantly elude us, changing their form at the slightest attempt at deep analysis. Some physicists have put forward a bold theory about the multidimensional nature of this radio signal. They believe that an alien intelligence uses the laws of quantum entanglement to communicate. If this is the case, then we are detecting only a three-dimensional shadow of a much more complex message. This explains the constant failures of our classical computers when attempting to translate it. We need a major technological leap just to read the headline of their message. We have finally realized that our current understanding of information is too primitive for such scales. All our great achievements in programming seem like a naive child's game compared to this code. The reality of this signal is far more complex than even the wildest fantasies of military cryptanalysts and mathematicians. Some scientists suggest that the signal is not intended for intelligent perception by living beings at all, as if it were simply a hidden technical exchange of data between two enormous and ancient automated stations. Evolution designed our brains for communication through simple words, not multidimensional mathematical and wave matrices. Therefore, our minds are simply physically incapable of visualizing the structure of this colossal extraterrestrial transmission. According to this theory, we are unsuccessfully trying to eavesdrop on the ultra-fast conversation of two gigantic computing machines. All we can record on disks is merely the distorted outer shell of an incredible flow of information. We may be living alongside digital gods without understanding a single byte of their thoughts. For centuries, we naively and proudly believed that the first radio contact would be simple and very clear. We were incredibly proud of our binary codes and considered mathematics the most universal language of the universe. Scientists confidently sent simple images and simple numbers into space in the hope of a quick response. It seemed to us that any intelligent civilization would politely begin communication with a multiplication table or constants. But now, these expectations seem like a ridiculous, laughable, and extremely presumptuous human mistake. Reality turned out to be frighteningly far removed from the plots of popular science fiction films. An alien intelligence has no intention of simplifying its communication for the sake of our comfortable understanding. They transmit their data at a level that is inaccessible to our current biological species. This signal has become a harsh lesson in cosmic humility for our entire scientific community. We have realized our intellectual insignificance on the scale of a vast and ancient galaxy. All our attempts at contact look like tapping an armored spaceship's hull with an ordinary stone. We stand utterly alone before this insurmountable wall of complex information, and we do not know the password. And we are desperately afraid of the day when this gigantic system decides to speak to us directly. If this incredibly complex code is indeed addressed to Earth, we have already failed this test completely. We are missing something truly fundamental in the basic structure of this frightening neighboring world. Scientists began searching for explanations for this anomaly in scientific fields completely unexpected for astronomy. When pure astrophysics reached a dead end, the biological concept of predatory behavior came to the rescue. Researchers turned to basic models of luring unsuspecting prey in the harsh and ruthless wild. If the entire cosmos is silent and a single planet shines brightly with signals, it looks extremely suspicious. Nature is full of examples of how cunning predators create attractive illusions for successful hunting. In the ocean, deep-sea fish use luminous biological lures in absolute impenetrable darkness. They attract curious and hungry prey with an ideal little light, behind which lies a deadly, toothy danger. This happens when the prey swims blindly toward the bright light in search of long-awaited food. Our entire current situation with Alpha Centauri painfully resembles this eerie and ancient analogy. This planet may be just such a glittering technological lure in the dark galactic forest. Such behavior is always dictated by the most severe scarcity of resources in closed systems. In conditions of limited space, those who masterfully deceive their competitors survive. In this regard, space is no different from the harsh earthly jungles or the deep ocean trenches. The energy of stars and valuable minerals will always be the object of endless interstellar struggle. And weak civilizations are the first to be sacrificed for the prosperity of the strong and cunning species. This grim theory sounds frighteningly logical to our modern understanding of a cruel and empty cosmos. It quickly found a lively and unsettling response in the serious analytical community of researchers studying the Fermi paradox. Sociologists understand perfectly well that the harsh laws of survival are merciless to all forms of intelligence, without exception. Imagine a vast cosmos filled to the brim with silent and extremely secretive, highly advanced civilizations. Every loud radio signal transmitted could become the final fatal mistake for a young and foolish race. According to this frightening model, all civilizations are divided into stealthy hunters and careless victims. Hunters always remain silent, listening intently to the airwaves in anticipation of an enemy's mistake, and victims joyfully shout about their existence across every available radio frequency. For a long time, Earth behaved precisely like a classic and incredibly naive victim. We constantly sent probes into the void with our precise coordinates and a description of our biology. Proxima b emits an enticing signal that appears mathematically perfect and completely safe. This system possesses all the conditions for life, as if they were deliberately and carefully displayed for all to see. None of us knows the true intentions of those who continuously broadcast this beacon into space. All intelligent species are terrified of first contact, but natural curiosity often overcomes caution. Under such conditions, a loud and steady signal becomes the perfect mousetrap for naive explorers. Anyone foolish enough to fly toward this call will immediately find themselves in a deadly trap. The bright radio signal acts like a huge, alluring neon sign in the middle of an empty, dark desert. In the boundless, cold cosmos, fierce competition for resources can take the most radical and ruthless forms. This bait could spend centuries gathering resources or advanced technologies from naive young civilizations like ours. No one will share valuable knowledge just like that out of some universal kindness of heart. Imagine a massive automated station processing incoming ships from gullible neighbors. The beacon operates completely autonomously, drawing a steady supply of energy from a red dwarf star for millions of years. The owners don't even need to be physically present on this deceptive and dangerous planet. They simply periodically collect the harvest of alien technologies and rare elements. It is a perfectly calibrated and incredibly cynical plan for the absorption of resources on a cosmic scale. The survival of one's own species always necessitates the construction of complex and incredibly multi-layered planetary defense systems. No ancient and wise race would risk its safety for the sake of idle chatter with neighbors. Therefore, the most advantageous strategy is to create false activity far from one's true homeworld. The best approach is simply to install a loud, indestructible automatic beacon in an empty neighboring star system. And it is precisely this unnatural activity that we are now frantically observing through our telescopes on Proxima. If this grim hypothesis is correct, then the steady signal from Alpha Centauri is by no means a friendly invitation. It is a powerful trap, painstakingly crafted over centuries of ruthless struggle for survival in this vast galaxy. Those civilizations that were too trusting of such signals simply did not survive to the present day. Highly advanced species can deliberately and effectively create such oases of illusion around dim and inconspicuous stars. They use planets like Proxima b as giant radars to catch uninvited guests. They construct gigantic technological illusions to safely study the reactions of their potential and unknown rivals. No one in their right mind wants to let strangers onto their central and most important planets right away. Security is guaranteed only by the skillful creation of such vast buffer zones and complex deceptive maneuvers. And this harsh rule makes our attempts at contact critically dangerous and incredibly foolish. Humanity currently lacks the necessary technologies to recognize such a trap up close. Every one of our research programs effectively reveals our exact location in space. We glow brightly in the radio spectrum, trying to make out the invisible web of stellar predators. Security experts are already proposing the construction of protective fields to conceal our emissions. But these desperate measures may prove hopelessly too late in real-time terms. Perhaps the trap has already been sprung, and we are simply waiting in ignorance for the arrival of our hosts. For many decades, we have behaved like naive moths, blindly flying into the flame. Our civilization is seriously developing detailed blueprints for probes to fly to this strange and alluring beacon. We are not giving a single thought to the possible catastrophic consequences of such direct physical and radioelectronic contact. We are shouting too loudly about our intentions to send ships directly into this dangerous system. We are literally about to voluntarily stick our hand into the jaws of an unknown, toothy cosmic mechanism. Any attempt to halt these ambitious space projects now faces colossal resistance. It is very difficult for people to give up the centuries-old dream of great interstellar voyages and discoveries. The world has invested trillions in the development of faster-than-light engines and powerful laser systems. No one wants to believe the cold, harsh truth about the hostility of the surrounding universe. Humanity will have to go through the agonizing process of accepting its new, unenviable role. Our insatiable thirst for exploration may well spell the end of our very brief human history. This trap has been waiting patiently for millions of years, until someone nearby invented the first radio telescope. All our grandiose projects to send out exploration probes could trigger this ancient system. Scientists sincerely believe that the probe will safely bring back photographs of incredible alien cities of a happy future. But it may bring only the instant activation of a protocol of total annihilation in response to our invasion. This is not happening somewhere at the unreachable far end of our vast and utterly empty galaxy. The anomaly is located literally in our cosmic backyard, just 4 light-years from Earth. We are beginning to see with crystal clarity that this threat is not an abstract and boring academic theory. With every new orbit of our planet around the Sun, we remain neighbors with this unknown object. Previously, we naively believed that the vast interstellar distances guaranteed us absolute and eternal safety from any invasion. The illusion of our isolation collapsed in an instant under the weight of irrefutable astronomical observations. Scientists have always reassured the public that the nearest stars are hundreds of thousands of Earth years away. We thought we were safely hidden in the quiet arm of Orion, far from galactic upheavals. However, reality turned out to be completely different and extremely cruel to our childish fears. An unknown civilization is located at a distance that, by the standards of the universe, is equivalent to the thickness of a sheet of paper. But by the harsh standards of the infinite universe, 4 light-years is the distance of an outstretched arm. Scientists have reached the shocking conclusion that our current planetary location is fundamentally vulnerable. This cruel and dangerous neighbor keeps us in its sights every single day. In recent years, we have thoroughly scanned this sector from top to bottom with our best radars, and every scan only harshly confirms the presence of a powerful artificial entity right next to us. This undeniable fact is forcing world leaders to rewrite all global defense doctrines. We have tried to peer intently into the darkest and most hidden corners of this triple star system. Astrophysicists were very hopeful of detecting even the slightest sign of natural processes in the behavior of the local dense atmosphere. They desperately searched for traces of ordinary volcanic eruptions or mundane meteorite impacts on the surface. But everywhere, an extremely strict mathematical order of operation of an unknown, gigantic, and ancient machine is invariably observed. There is absolutely not a single random or chaotic natural thermodynamic process in this entire system. This frightening consistency simply leaves no room for salvific scientific skepticism. If this is real, then this discovery completely and forever robs humanity of peaceful, untroubled sleep. It directly implies that someone incredibly powerful controls the space right up to our solar boundary. The scientific community is forced, in panic and haste, to reevaluate all theoretical models for the protection of planet Earth. We face the difficult task of accepting a completely new paradigm of our solitary existence. We constantly live alongside a monstrous and unknown force whose true motives are utterly obscure. Our home is no longer the isolated and impregnable fortress we naively believed it to be. It turns out that our home system is under round-the-clock surveillance by this strange and enormous structure. Perhaps their sensors are constantly recording every change in the chemical composition of our fragile atmosphere. Or perhaps Alpha Centauri itself is simply a massive observation outpost for studying our feeble civilization. This star system is ideally suited to serve as a grand forward operating base. From there, it is very convenient to monitor our entire modest local arm of the Milky Way, and we have found ourselves right at the center of their intense scrutiny without the slightest consent. Both of these grim hypotheses force us to seriously consider our physical survival in the near future. The true scale of this universal looming threat simply paralyzes the will of today's world politicians and military leaders. Generals are accustomed to thinking in terms of Earth's continents and oceans, not the bottomless expanse of outer space. This is certainly not a distant, abstract problem that can easily be left to future generations of researchers. We have come face to face with the fact of the presence of an alien, immense intelligence just a short leap away. This thought has tightly entangled absolutely all modern discussions about space in an extremely alarming and grim web. For many years, we romantically imagined that we would slowly and gradually colonize empty worlds. Scientists sincerely believed in the possibility of a phased and completely safe expansion of humanity toward the nearest stars. Science fiction writers painted vivid pictures of our future flourishing colonies in the orbits of alien suns. We proudly assumed that Alpha Centauri would inevitably become our first, easy and triumphant off-Earth colony. Plans for the distant future were built precisely on this positive and extremely self-assured, anthropocentric concept. We were completely unprepared to encounter the true masters of these distant lands. But now it has suddenly turned out that this coveted shore has long been occupied by someone far more powerful. The artificial signal shows no sign of fading. It continues to beat monotonously and menacingly against our antennas. The signals easily penetrate the solar system, as if carefully probing our current technological density. Every stellar observatory on Earth is now forced to put up with this constant and oppressive background electromagnetic pressure. This constant directed radiation has become an invisible but heavy burden for the entire global scientific community. Fresh data from the latest orbital telescopes leave absolutely no room for a simple natural explanation. The instruments detect an overly precise, calibrated geometric and mathematical structure in these frightening and powerful radio waves. Physicists clearly see in this data the strict mathematical patterns characteristic of powerful military radars. Such technology on Earth is typically used for the early detection of intercontinental ballistic missile launches. This effective suppression of random noise and the absolute clarity of the pulse are two characteristic of military surveillance systems. No natural celestial body is capable of generating such a clean signal. It looks exactly as if an invisible sniper is methodically and cold-bloodedly illuminating Earth with a laser sight. And only now have we begun to realize with horror that this beam is aimed straight at our foreheads. Just imagine for a moment the paralyzing horror of an astronomer who, for the first time, has grasped the essence of this scanning radio wave. The scientists' entire familiar world collapsed in the space of a few minutes of analyzing dry telemetry data. The realization that we are being constantly watched forever changes our perception of the starry sky above our heads. No amount of psychological training can prepare the human mind for such a monstrous fact. The intelligent beings who once created this system possess technologies capable of transforming entire planetary and stellar systems. They are capable of altering the physical properties of worlds to achieve their grand and, to us, incomprehensible goals. Their engineering prowess surpasses even our boldest scientific projections by thousands of years. We cannot even imagine materials capable of withstanding such unimaginable thermal and radiation loads. They manipulate gravity and plasma flows as easily as we build sandcastles. This is a level of divine technological power, embodied in cold metal and complex energy fields. They can harness the colossal energy of 3 stars to continuously power their incredibly powerful installations. Their technologies have long since reached heights that are too complex for us to even describe in terms of modern physics. At the same time, the radius of their direct influence can span tens of light years around their central system. And despite all their overwhelming grandeur, they are closer to us than the outer edge of the Kuiper Belt. All their directed scanners operate exclusively in our direction without the slightest technical interruption. This targeted scanning completely rules out the possibility of accidental or statistical observation errors. They can easily detect every launch of our pitiful and primitive chemical-fueled rocket. The flashes of our main engines are clearly visible against the backdrop of cold space through their sensitive scanners. To them, our spacecraft look like slow and very noisy carts on a bumpy road. We naively take pride in our flights to the moon, while they alter the orbits of entire planets. It is an extremely sad fate for humanity, to be born literally right next to galactic and invincible giants. Their technological ceiling lies infinitely far beyond the limits of our current biological imagination. Our civilization is forced to come to terms daily with this humiliating and extremely dangerous status as a junior neighbor. Politicians desperately try to hide the true scale of our complete vulnerability from the general public. But the truth inevitably seeps into society through data from independent global astronomical centers. Such incredible proximity brilliantly explains why we constantly feel their intense scrutiny upon us. Our attempt at technological growth can be cut short at any moment by their unknown will alone. We are completely and irrevocably at the mercy of those who built that beacon on Proxima Centauri. The most crucial and terrifying question arises. If they are definitely there, why don't they make open contact? The signal we receive contains absolutely no explicit message or greeting to the inhabitants of Earth. It is simply the rhythmic and eerie hum of an incredibly complex mechanism that has been operating on autopilot for centuries. Superior minds once built this infrastructure there, but they categorically ignore our timid attempts at communication. We send powerful radio waves directly to their planet, but receive only a dead and cold echo in return. Scientists broadcast encyclopedias, classical music, and complex mathematical equations toward Proxima Centauri around the clock. We desperately hope to attract their attention with our finest cultural and scientific achievements. However, all these titanic efforts vanish into the cosmic void without the slightest hint of reciprocity. It seems their receiving antennas aren't tuned to our primitive communication frequencies at all. They appear to use entirely different principles of information exchange, physically beyond our comprehension. This endless silence becomes the loudest and most terrifying response to our pleas for contact. Think about how we ourselves treat an ordinary anthill near a busy highway under construction on a daily basis. Engineers do not try to negotiate with the ants about the terms of building a new, massive and important interchange. We simply lay down the asphalt indifferently, without the slightest concern for their primitive and tiny social structure. The builders don't study the insect's language before pouring tons of cement over their home. Their entire universe shrinks to the size of a small, dirty roadside in our vast and noisy technological world. What if the unknown creators of the Centaur system apply exactly the same ruthless logic to us? To them, all of humanity may be nothing more than amusing biological mold on a damp rock. Our blue planet may seem to them like an ordinary cobblestone that happened to get in their way, and they simply watch indifferently as we scurry about in the radio waves, unwilling to physically intervene. Our long history of wars and achievements is less interesting to them than the random Brownian motion of molecules. We have not yet learned to manage even the climate of our own home planet without regular catastrophic and fatal consequences. To them, every scientific invention of ours looks like a dangerous game played by irrational primates with sharp sticks. From their high orbit, our global conflicts and petty political ambitions seem like ridiculous mouse-like squabbles. We are ready to destroy one another for the sake of tiny patches of land or meager reserves of fossil fuels. Higher intelligence has long outgrown such primitive instincts of territorial division and resource-intensive destructive wars. They think in broad terms of stellar energy and galactic epochs, not our short earthly centuries. Their society has surely successfully overcome all those growing pains that Earth is currently suffering from. Therefore, they simply have nothing to discuss with us on serious or equal terms. We are immensely proud of splitting the atom, while they may have long been controlling thermonuclear reactions of entire massive stars. They have absolutely no interest in our human moral qualities, just as we are not concerned with the morality of bacteria. No biologist ponders the deep feelings of paramecia in a drop of water under a microscope lens. To any truly ancient and powerful civilization, we appear as a very brief and extremely noisy flash. Who would want to waste precious resources on communicating with a species that could well vanish without a trace tomorrow? An alien intelligence simply waits calmly until we either evolve or quickly destroy ourselves. Until that moment, any meaningful contact with us is completely devoid of any practical sense for them. Why waste time establishing contact with a civilization on the brink of nuclear or ecological self-destruction? This theory of their arrogant silence perfectly and logically explains the nature of the cold, automatic, and powerful signal. It works simply because their gigantic machine must discharge excess colossal energy into space. Astronomers hear only the background noise of the engine running in their vast and incomprehensible civilizational infrastructure. And this invisible filter of indifference works far more reliably and effectively than any hostile force barrier. We are deliberately given no answers because we are not even noticed as worthy interlocutors. Our current technological level is too low to join the exclusive galactic club of advanced civilizations. Any technological hint or direct assistance from outside could instantly and irrevocably destroy our fragile culture. We would instantly become lazy consumers of others' knowledge, completely halting our own independent progress. Therefore, we are forever left to stew in our own informational broth on the outskirts of their majestic stellar empire. Humanity will have a hard time coming to terms with the role of an insignificant and weak neighbor to the great and ancient space engineers. Only by realizing our complete insignificance can we correctly and soberly assess the situation in the night sky. Pride has always prevented people from objectively viewing the structure of the vast world around us. Now, the universe is teaching us the harshest and cruelest lesson in humility in the entire history of our species. We can no longer delude ourselves with fairy tale illusions of our chosen status and biological uniqueness. Our further development must proceed with this terrifying factor of invisible control from above in mind. We must learn to survive and grow in the long shadow of these colossal alien mechanisms. Our massive radio telescopes pitifully catch only crumbs from their grandiose and incomprehensible technological table. These are cold and soulless mirrors that harshly reflect the vast chasm between our level of development and theirs. Every message received painfully reminds us of our own helplessness in the face of the unknown cosmos. We constantly bump blindly against the walls of our own ignorance and naively assume that this is some kind of malicious intent. Astrophysicists desperately construct complex mathematical models of the threat, drawing on their human fears and inner insecurities. But the real truth may be far more hurtful. We are simply completely unnecessary and uninteresting to anyone out there. And behind this invisible barrier of total indifference, a real and utterly unimaginable stellar life is bustling. There may well be vast highways for transferring energy between the three stars of this local system. Perhaps they are building incredible megastructures or assembling artificial planets for their unknown needs. This is a life whose scale our primitive brain categorically refuses to even let come close to its comprehension. This thought deals the most crushing blow to our collective and inflated human pride. We have become too accustomed to selfishly considering ourselves the crown of creation in this vast, empty, and incredibly boring universe. But on a real scale, we turn out to be nothing more than a tiny, annoying, and utterly insignificant speck of cosmic dust. No one even attempts to control us. They have absolutely no desire to enslave us or exploit us in any way. Movie plots about alien invasions for the sake of our water resources have turned out to be silly and naive anthropomorphic fairy tales. We are simply being coldly and consistently ignored for centuries, while they continue to go about their incredible business on the surface of Proxima. Perhaps our yellow sun is just a boring and empty transit zone for their automated craft. It is a strictly off-limits zone for any contact, simply because there is absolutely no one here to communicate with. The watchers of this sector simply wait impassively for the natural resolution of our pitiful and protracted earthly crisis. Their dispassionate sensors record any fluctuations in temperature and levels of artificial radiation on our surface. If we finally destroy Earth in the course of a war, they won't even pay any attention to it. Their vast archives will simply be updated with yet another boring entry about a doomed civilization of the lowest order. For them, this is mundane routine statistics, regularly updated across the entire vast galaxy. We evoke in them neither pity nor hidden schadenfreude, only a cold, mechanical recording of facts. Our future survival depends entirely on our own wisdom and our ability to unite on a global scale. If we can overcome Earth's gravitational pull and reach them, perhaps they will at least take notice, if only in surprise. The appearance of our fragile spacecraft at their borders could be a tiny first step toward recognition. But to achieve this, we need to make a truly colossal technological and spiritual leap forward. As long as we squander precious resources on strife, the chances of such a breakthrough remain critically slim. The silence of the ether will serve as a constant and harsh reminder of our social immaturity. But as long as we are completely unprepared for such a step, the silence will remain deafening and incredibly humiliating. This silence weighs on the minds of researchers more heavily than any open threats of military invasion. Uncertainty always gives rise to the most terrifying demons in our collective human consciousness. We are forced to live with the thought that Judgment Day could arrive in a completely mundane way and without any warning. our planet hangs by a thin thread of alien indifference, which could snap at any second. This cold and arrogant contempt of the cosmos terrifies researchers far more than any direct military threat. If all this is real, it permanently and irrevocably changes our true place in objective physical reality. We have come right up to the very edge of our meager understanding of the bottomless cosmic abyss surrounding us. All these latest and most precise astrophysical observations lead to incredibly frightening and deeply depressing conclusions. Scientists are desperately trying to find even a glimmer of faint hope in this nearby and powerful artificial signal. Whether it is the terrifying decoy theory or simply the absolute indifference of a super-civilization, the essence remains terrifying. The essence of what is happening is utterly unchanging for all of our fragile, lonely, and extremely presumptuous humanity. We are incredibly small and completely physically powerless in the face of our mysterious neighbors from Alpha Centauri. All that remains for us is to stand submissively and silently before this utterly insurmountable and immense technological barrier. For many years, popular science promised us an exceptionally bright and joyful cosmic future of bold pioneers. Science fiction writers vividly described how we would boldly fly off to conquer the star system closest to us. But harsh reality has suddenly presented us with an extremely cruel and very sobering historical lesson in space. The vast cosmos is by no means waiting for us with friendly greetings and warm galactic embraces. It, or more precisely, our closest powerful neighbors, harshly dictates its strict rules of cosmic survival. The great and incomprehensible presence on Proxima makes it abundantly clear what our true and lowly status is within the galaxy, and we are forced to silently and meekly submit to this invisible dictates of a force that is overwhelming and utterly unknown to us. Every new and more sensitive telescope now brings scientists much more primal and animalistic fear. We watch the incoming data from Alpha Centauri very closely and are terrified of the slightest changes, because any sudden change in this signal will inevitably and swiftly destroy our fragile, illusory world. If the rhythm were to suddenly falter, we would have to immediately and frantically prepare for the worst-case scenario. This oppressive paranoia has already become an integral part of all modern large-scale deep space exploration programs. This endless, monotonous signal has become our curse, but its stability is our most important shield. As long as the enormous and incomprehensible machine on Proxima operates smoothly, we can calmly continue our life on Earth. People build their cities, develop communication networks, and blithely plan their earthly and very near future. Ignorance of its true and global objectives has turned out to be a surprisingly comfortable state for our fragile psyches. We instinctively and cowardly hide behind this illusion of normality from global and inevitable existential threats. But our basic and insatiable human curiosity is physically impossible to simply stop. We will inevitably continue to listen intently to this ominous system every clear and cold night. Astronomers will stubbornly and fanatically search for the slightest fluctuations in this incomprehensible and terrifying alien mechanism. Our species is evolutionarily programmed for a continuous and often dangerous search for even the most terrifying truth. We are eternally driven forward by a thirst for new knowledge, which may well become the cause of our own destruction. We will persistently continue our research at the very limits of our modest and primitive technical capabilities, even if the conclusion of this story threatens the entire Earth with complete and absolutely inevitable physical destruction. This irrepressible curiosity once led us to invent the radio and gaze upon distant stars for the first time. We are simply genetically incapable of stopping when we face a mystery of such incredible magnitude. And we will surely continue to foolishly send laser pulses directly toward the enigmatic Alpha Centauri. Perhaps one day we ourselves will safely, and without loss, grow to understand this incredibly complex signal. We will miraculously survive our earthly conflicts and enter a completely new stage of understanding quantum physics. We will clearly understand how their artificial atmosphere works and why they have been emitting these waves for millennia. And then we ourselves will consciously and permanently fall silent, mortally terrified by the vast picture of the universe that has opened up to us. We will simply stop foolishly drawing unnecessary attention to ourselves from these ancient and incredibly powerful neighbors. We will very quietly join this great and universal cosmic silence for the sake of our Earth's survival. This event will inevitably become our final act of coming of age as a rational, cautious, and quiet species. We will forever cease to be foolish, screaming children trying to shout ourselves hoarse to indifferent galactic gods. Humanity will finally learn to listen to the universe without revealing our exact location to those who are far stronger. Cold and calculated caution will completely supplant our former reckless and extremely foolish openness to information. But until then, we continue to circle carelessly around our sun in a very dangerous state of ignorance. Our fragile, tiny blue planet flies through cold space, illuminated by a foreign and frightening beacon. We are diligently writing our history, completely unaware of the intentions of those who are watching us so closely. This crushing uncertainty is the heaviest and most unbearable burden on our collective scientific mind. And with every new frightening discovery on Alpha Centauri, this invisible burden only grows heavier. Think about this fact the next time you look up at the bright stars of a clear night sky. You will never again see there the familiar and welcoming world of future romantic space travel. You will clearly see a gigantic and terrifying mystery that lies literally within arm's reach of us. This sparkling, starry dome is full of secrets, and the greatest of them is hidden right within the Alpha Centauri system. We stand in the face of an incredible force capable of erasing our entire existence in an instant. For centuries, we sincerely and naively believed that we fully understood the fundamental laws of our vast universe. We were incredibly confident in our telescopes, complex formulas, and methods for searching for other distant civilizations. But now, our best minds fearfully admit their complete helplessness in the face of the Proxima Centauri anomaly. The more intently we peer at this monotonous signal, the less earthly logic remains there. Our well-ordered modern science is beginning to crack loudly at the seams under the weight of these incredible discoveries. Our cutting-edge astrophysics has turned into a pitiful attempt to understand God's vast machine through a tiny keyhole. And we still have absolutely no real chance of finding the key to this neighboring, closed-off world. Perhaps the real hidden truth lies infinitely far beyond the limits of our primitive biological perception. Our feeble brains are simply incapable of fully grasping the scale of this threat looming right next to our home. Evolution has not prepared us in the slightest to understand physical phenomena of such colossal and universal scope. We are like blind, frantic ants, desperately trying to understand the workings of a functioning quantum supercomputer by its vibrations. All we can do is passively record the anomalies of this signal and construct extremely tentative theoretical guesses. And every new conjecture turns out to be many times more terrifying than all our previous, very naive theories. We wander blindly in absolute darkness, fully aware that a giant predator is breathing down our necks. Science has finally turned into an endless and agonizing wait for a verdict, with our eyes tightly shut in fear. Our familiar reality has turned out to be far from as safe as we always confidently imagined. It is much deeper, far darker and incomparably more complex than any of our wildest fantasies. The star closest to us has turned out to be a place where alien and utterly incomprehensible laws are at work right now. And we still have absolutely no idea why this colossal machine is looking specifically at Earth. Perhaps it really is better for us never to learn this truly terrifying and ultimate truth in our entire lives.